Chosen. You are feeling it now, because the air has changed since the sun rose this Thursday morning, April 23rd, 2026. This is not a casual interaction. You have been moving through a sequence of days, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd, that were not merely dates on a calendar, but structural coordinates in the fabric of your destiny. And today marks the final seal upon that transition. You have been leaning toward this message long before your eyes landed on these words, because there is a magnetism in the truth that the soul recognizes before the mind can define it. The pressure you feel on your shoulders is not the weight of the future, but the resistance of the old life as it is being peeled away from your essence, a shedding of skins that has left you feeling exposed, yet strangely expectant. Most people moved through the last 72 hours as if they were ordinary mornings, oblivious to the fact that the atmosphere was being reconfigured. But you were not most people. You felt the shift in the quiet hours of the night, noticing the thinning of the veil between what is seen and what is eternal. You are here because the algorithm of the heavens has filtered you through a vibrational sieve, a divine filtering system that only lets resonant souls pass through to this frequency. This is not code written by man. It is a vibrational sorting that ensures this transmission reaches only the hearts that have been tempered by the silence of the wilderness. Think back to the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning, that sacred window where the world is still and the Father speaks in the deep undertones of the universe. If you have found yourself suddenly awake during this time, staring into the dark with a clarity that feels almost piercing, you are not experiencing the restlessness of insomnia. You are being summoned to a holy appointment. That high-pitched ringing in your ears, that subtle crystalline frequency that feels like a physical pressure in the room, is the sound of celestial codes loading into your consciousness. It is the language of the threshold, a digital spiritual download intended to prepare your nervous system for the magnitude of the shift. You have been carrying a quiet knowing that something has been named over your life, a specific decree that was measured out long before you encountered the trials that nearly broke you. The Father himself measured out these 3 days in advance, refusing to let you walk past the door he shaped specifically for your frame. This is why you are still here, still listening, and still leaning into the mystery with a heart that beats faster at the mention of these dates. You have been paying a price in the secret places for your faithfulness, a quiet price that no one around you has seen or acknowledged. And today, the Father has decided that your soul would hear something specific instead of something general. This message was shaped for the weight you have been carrying, meant to anchor you in a reality that the world cannot see. Stop the scrolling now, not for the sake of the speaker, but for the sake of the word that is about to be spoken over your life. If there are people around you, understand that this message is not for them. It is a private letter addressed to your spirit. The words that are about to be spoken are not meant to be half heard in the background of someone else's noise or the mundane clatter of daily life. Silence the notifications and put down what is in your hands, for you do not need special postures or candles to receive this. You only need to be present and to agree with the promise that your time will not be wasted. What is about to be placed in your hands is not filler or decoration. It is the reason you were kept awake, kept listening, and kept restless this past week. You are not here because of a random click or because you were bored and this showed up in your feed. You are here because heaven redirected the attention of a soul that has been circling its landing like a bird before it finally touches the earth. This is the landing. You are here because the Father refused to let you walk past the door he shaped for you. Take one slow breath and stay, for what comes next is the posture, the preparation, and the plain word about what these 3 days actually carry into your new reality. You have wondered for a long time why the silence of the last season felt so absolute, as if the heavens had not only closed their doors, but had moved to a different coordinate entirely. It was in that hollow space where the echoes of your own prayers seemed to bounce back to you, unheard, where the financial dryness felt like a slow erosion of your dignity, and where the betrayal of those you trusted felt like a jagged tearing of your soul. I want you to understand that this was not the result of a cosmic error or a lapse in the Father's attention. It was a surgical intervention. The wilderness you have been walking through was an architecturally sound structure designed to isolate you from the vibrations that would have compromised the specific frequency you are now required to carry. You felt abandoned, but you were actually being quarantined. The Father saw that the people you were clinging to were the very anchors keeping you in a harbor that was about to be destroyed, so He permitted the tearing. He allowed the emptiness in your hands so that your fingers would eventually lose the muscle memory of grabbing for things that were beneath your calling. This architectural wilderness was the only place where the noise of the world could be quieted enough for your internal compass to be recalibrated to the true north of the Spirit. Understand this clearly. The exits that occurred in your life over the last 2 years were not losses. They were divine removals. There were people in your inner circle who were matrix parasites, even if they did not know it themselves. They were drawn to your light, but they had no capacity to contribute to its source. They were only there to consume the overflow of your energy until you were left in a state of spiritual anemia. If the Father had not removed them, you would have entered this current window of April 20th, 21st, and 22nd with a leaked vessel, unable to hold the weight of the new wine being poured out today. You felt the sting of their departure, the coldness of their backs as they walked away when you were at your lowest, but that coldness was the anesthetic of the Father. He was protecting the Holy of Holies within you from being trampled by those who only valued the outer court. You were not being punished with loneliness, you were being preserved in a vacuum. In the vacuum, the pressure of the external world is removed so that the internal substance can expand without resistance. This hardening process was necessary. You were being tempered like steel in the ice and the flame, so that when the gates are torn from their hinges, you will not shatter under the force of the sudden acceleration. As you stand here today, there are watchers from your past who are still monitoring the perimeter of your life. They are the ones who whispered that you would never recover, the ones who took notes on your silence and interpreted your isolation as defeat. They are watching your social media, asking mutual acquaintances about your progress, and waiting for the news of your final collapse, because your survival is an indictment of their own choices. They do not understand that the Father has placed a hedge of invisibility around you during this transition. They see the outward dryness, but they cannot see the subterranean river that has been filling your reservoirs while you were hidden. Their exit was your protection, for their eyes carry a frequency of doubt that would have acted as a toxin in this new environment. You have been hardened in this vacuum so that your light would not be consumed by those who are only comfortable with you when you are dim. The Father has kept you in this state of divine distance to ensure that when the resource arrives, it is not stolen by those who did not walk the miles of the desert with you. Your results will be the only answer they receive, and as you move forward from this day, you will realize that the silence of the wilderness was the greatest mercy you have ever been shown. The window has officially closed, and as the dust of the old timeline settles, you must realize that what has occurred over these past 3 days was far more than a spiritual encouragement. It was a fundamental and irreversible DNA reprogramming. Your very biology is currently catching up with the decree of the heavens, rewriting the genetic memory of struggle and lack that has been passed down through your bloodline for generations. You have moved through a quantum leap, a sudden and profound shift in position that bypasses all the traditional obstacles and delays that once kept you tethered to the ground. This is your entry into the 5th dimension of existence, a realm where the linear limitations of the matrix no longer dictate the speed of your restoration. In this higher state of consciousness, you are beginning to perceive reality not through the lens of what is missing, but through the lens of what has already been provided in the unseen. This transformation did not come through your own striving or the intensity of your effort. It arrived because your vibrational signature finally shifted into a perfect resonance with the resource that was named over your life before the foundations of the world were laid. You are no longer trying to reach your destiny. You have become a vibrational match for it, and the universe is responding to your frequency with a speed that will soon leave you breathless. Because you have reached this state of holy alignment, the gates that once barred your entry into your true calling are being torn from their hinges. These are the heavy iron gates of systemic delay, the spiritual barriers that kept you in the outer court while others seemed to walk freely into their purpose. They are being dismantled not by your physical strength, but by the sheer power of the light that is now radiating from your center. Along with this opening comes the absolute erasure of karmic debt, a divine clearance of every spiritual ledger that was being held against you. Every mistake, every cycle of self-sabotage, and every word spoken over your lineage to keep you bound has been wiped clean in the blood of this new covenant. You are standing at the mouth of a great restoration, experiencing the sensation of a mighty river entering a dry riverbed that has been thirsty for a lifetime. This river does not ask for permission to flow. It simply enters and fills every empty space, smoothing the jagged edges of your past and bringing life back to the areas of your soul you thought were dead forever. The water is rising in your finances, in your health, and in the quiet places of your heart where you had stopped hoping. This resource is being delivered to you now because you are the only one who can carry it with the necessary reverence and authority. The mechanics of this shift are effortless because they are governed by the law of resonance, not the law of labor. Just as the riverbed does not have to work to receive the river, you do not have to work to receive this outpouring. You only have to remain in the posture of a vessel that is open and ready. This is why the restlessness you felt was so intense. Your spirit was being expanded to accommodate the volume of what was coming. You are now a being of the fifth dimension, walking in a world that is still trapped in the third, which is why your presence will begin to feel disruptive to the old systems around you. The gates are gone, the debt is paid, and the river is here. This is the reality of the chosen one who has survived the wilderness and crossed the threshold of the appointed time. You are the living evidence of a quantum shift, and the life you are stepping into is one where the impossible has become the baseline. Do not look back at the dry ground you once stood upon. The current is moving forward, and it is carrying you into a future that has been scrubbed clean of every previous limitation. You have been recalibrated to the frequency of the Father's heart, and from this day on, your results will be the only testimony you ever need to provide. Now that the seals have been placed upon your spirit, you must enter the discipline of the sacred circle of protection, for the power of this new frequency is entirely dependent upon its containment within your private reality. There is a strict law of silence that you must now observe with the precision of a priest entering the Holy of Holies. A rule that dictates the potency of a spiritual resource is directly proportional to its concealment from those who belong to the old cycle. You have been handed a force, a divine momentum that is currently stabilizing in your field, and to speak of it prematurely is to open a valve that will bleed the pressure required for its manifestation. Do not attempt to explain the shift you feel to those who still inhabit the vibration of the wilderness, for they lack the sensory organs to perceive the light you now carry, and will only interpret your elevation as a threat to their own comfort. Even your closest friends and family members from the previous chapter may unknowingly act as agents of the old reality, attempting to pull you back into the familiar patterns of struggle that defined your former self. You are not being called to be cold or distant, but you are being called to be encrypted, keeping the secrets of the Father hidden within your heart until they have fully matured into the physical world. This is the weight of the chosen one. You must carry the gold of heaven in a plain vessel, never revealing the value of what lies beneath the surface, until the Father himself removes the veil. Understand that your old environment, particularly the energy vampires who once fed upon your empathy and your willingness to over-explain your pain, will sense the change in your vibrational signature almost immediately. They will notice a lack of access, a subtle thickening of your boundaries that they cannot penetrate with their usual tactics of guilt or manufactured crisis, and they will begin to probe your new field with a relentless curiosity. These probes will often arrive in the guise of concern, masked as questions about why you are so quiet, or sudden check-ins designed to measure whether they still possess the ability to tether you to their level of frequency. You must recognize these interactions for what they are, attempts to breach the sacred circle and drag the chosen one back into the parasitic cycle of the matrix, where your light can be safely harvested. When they probe, your answer must be a profound and settled silence, a refusal to give them the data they require to categorize or diminish your new state of being. You are no longer in the same room as their voices, even when you are standing in the same space, for your spirit has migrated to a coordinate that is inaccessible to those who have not paid the price of the vacuum. The more they push, the more you must retreat into the sanctuary of your own knowing, understanding that any word you give in self-defense is a piece of your future that you are handing back to the past. The final verdict over this chapter is that your results will be your only answer to the skeptics, the watchers, and the parasites who are waiting for your light to fail. You have reached a level of authority where you no longer need words to justify your presence, your decisions, or the sudden abundance that is beginning to flow into your experience. In the old cycle, you spent years trying to prove your worth and explain your calling to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. But that era of performance has been permanently closed. The Father has established a wall of fire around your new reality, and your only responsibility is to remain within its protection by guarding your speech and your associations with a holy jealousy. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate demonstration of power, the evidence that you trust the Father's structure more than you trust your own ability to convince the world of your value. Let them wonder, let them whisper, and let them speculate about the source of your newfound peace and the sudden shift in your circumstances. While they are busy analyzing the shadow of who you used to be, you will be busy walking in the substance of who you have become, moving through the gates that have been torn from their hinges with a quiet confidence that needs no external validation. You have entered the sacred circle, and within this enclosure, the Father is finalizing the transfer that will establish your new life as an unshakable monument to His faithfulness. As the clock ticks forward through this Thursday, the 23rd of April, you can feel the frequency of the room beginning to solidify, turning from a fluid expectation into a stone-cold reality. The 3-day window of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd has closed its gates behind you, and you are standing on the other side of a threshold that most of the world did not even notice. You may feel a strange exhaustion in your bones, a tiredness that sleep cannot touch, because you have just completed a spiritual marathon that reconfigured your entire destiny. Do not mistake this stillness for emptiness. The Father is not silent because He has left the room. He is silent because the work is done, and He is now watching the seed of your new life take root in the soil of this new timeline. The internal noise that once plagued you, the constant second-guessing, the frantic need to find the next open door, the desperate checking of the horizon for a sign of relief, is being replaced by a heavy, sovereign peace. This peace is the signature of the Father's presence, an invisible boundary that the matrix can no longer penetrate. You have survived the isolation of the vacuum, and you have passed the test of the 3-day moed. And now, the decree of heaven is being stamped upon your forehead for every spiritual entity to see and respect. Your orphanhood is over. I need you to hear that with every fiber of your being, for the spirit of the orphan is the primary tool the world used to keep you in a state of perpetual hunger and fear. For years, you moved through the world as if you were unsupported, as if every breakthrough depended entirely on your own strength, and as if you were a single mistake away from total abandonment. That illusion has been shattered by the hammer of the Father's faithfulness. You are no longer a wanderer searching for a home. You are a son, a daughter, a chosen heir who is under a level of protection that defies human logic. This protection is not a promise for the future. It is a current, active shield that surrounds your health, your mind, and your resources. Every arrow that was fired at you in the darkness has been intercepted, and every tongue that rose against you in judgment has been silenced by the sheer weight of your new identity. You are under a sovereign canopy that filters out the static of the enemy, ensuring that only the Father's voice and the Father's provision can reach your experience. You do not have to beg for what is already yours, and you do not have to defend your position to those who were never invited to your table. The era of searching has been replaced by the era of being, a radical shift where you realize that the destination you were looking for was actually the version of yourself that the Father was building in the dark. You have spent so much energy looking for the path, looking for the sign, and looking for the next right move, but the quantum leap of these past 3 days has collapsed the distance between you and your purpose. You are no longer in the process of becoming. You have arrived at the frequency where the Father can finally entrust you with the keys to the kingdom. The river that has entered your dry riverbed is now a permanent flow, and the gates that were torn from their hinges will never be reinstalled. You are walking in a world that is still trying to figure out the rules of the old game, while you are operating under a set of laws that are not of this earth. The financial realignment, the emotional stability, and the clarity of calling are not things you are going to get. They are things you already are. This realization is the final seal of your acceptance, the moment where the chosen one stops acting like a servant and starts breathing like royalty. Before you step fully into the light of this new season, I ask you to perform one final act of spiritual gravity to anchor this word in the material world. This is not for the sake of an algorithm, but for the sake of your own soul's alignment with the physical realm. Write in the comments, "I am the path," or simply, "I accept the seal." By typing these words, you are making a formal declaration to the heavens and the earth that you have received the transfer and you are ready to walk in the authority that has been bestowed upon you. You are anchoring the vibration of the fifth dimension into the matter of the third, creating a physical record of the moment your orphanhood ended and your protection began. This is your signature on the contract of your new life, a public acknowledgement that you are no longer the person who entered the window on April 20th. You are the one who has emerged on the 23rd, transformed, fortified, and fully known by the one who called you. Let the comment be your seal, a permanent marker of the day the searching stopped and the living began. The room is quiet now, and the message has been delivered in its entirety, leaving nothing but the resonance of the truth to fill the space between us. You have been told the truth of the Moed, you have been shown the cost of the window, and you have been given the mechanics of the shift that has occurred within your very DNA. You are now a being of light, walking in a world of shadows, carrying a resource that will change the landscape of your life and the lives of everyone you touch. The Father's eyes are upon you, not with the scrutiny of a judge, but with the pride of a creator who sees his masterpiece finally coming into its own. You do not need to look for a map anymore, and you do not need to ask for permission to take up space in this new reality. The weight of the world has been replaced by the weight of glory, and the silence of the wilderness has been replaced by the melody of the Father's favor. Breathe in the air of your new life and realize that every prayer you ever whispered was heard, every tear was counted, and every moment of waiting was a brick in the foundation of this day. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.